Hey y'all, I'm Todd Bailey.
What's up? It's Arie Lombardozzi.
And this is fucking Brewtal.
Get in the pit, stock up the fridge, and listen. We're here to cover the latest in metal news and craft beer. A match made in hell.
If it makes you bang your head, then we want to hear it. If it tickles your taste buds, share those suds.
Turn it up to 11.
Crack open that beer.
It's about to get brutal.
What's up, Hopwolves? It's your boys, Todd and Arie, coming at you with our best of Q1 2024. It has felt like a whole year to get to this point, but we're only 1/4 of the way through somehow, and so much heat has dropped. Arie, talk a little bit about just how crazy this first quarter of 2024 has been, because, you know, as we talked about before in past episodes like this, it can be hard to pick these lists.
It's always hard to pick these lists, even when I feel like there's standout albums or EPs, which there definitely are. There's like another one that comes like the next week,
Exactly.
or like just because it's been cool too over the last couple years when bands, like, it won't just be on Fridays anymore that new shit is dropping. It's throughout the week, and it's daunting as always to keep up with it. You know, we're only two people. We try our fucking best, but these are always the ones, and we always have to preface all the lists that we come up with are from bands that we constantly go back to or have made an impression that has been lasting, you know, in one way, shape, or form. Because there's plenty of things that aren't going to be on here that are fucking killer. And that's exciting for us to talk about because we have similar tastes. But as the Hopwolves know, if you've been with us for a while, Todd is usually the wild card, at least in my eyes. He's
like
always
Charlie.
coming up with like jumps out of the back of the moving van with drums of gasoline, wild card bitches. But it makes it fun for us, and it's also nice that we started doing this, pat ourselves on the back here, because then we get to give love to bands and albums that come out throughout the year, and it helps us to keep track of things. We were just talking before we started recording that without this show, it'd be a lot fucking harder to keep up with how many killer bands are out there nowadays.
We'd be so oblivious.
So oblivious. It would be like the classic, I listened to this shit 15 years ago and like, that's it. And then like the occasional, like, dude, did you hear Knocked Loose for the first time? And be like, dude, they've been so big for so long.
Dude,
and
let's take just a mini break about that new single. Like, come on.
I am unsure how they keep getting heavier while maintaining their sound.
Yeah.
Like every time I hear a Knocked Loose song, I'm like, this is exactly it. And like Brian's vocals aside, which are always a dead giveaway. Like even if you took out Brian of the equation, which please fucking don't, it would be, I'd be like, yeah, that's a Knocked Loose song. They have such a distinct sound and they're able to continue that sound, but still make it sound fresh. Like every time I'm like, damn, is this going to sound like Laugh Tracks again? Is this going to sound like a different shade of blue? Which would not be bad things. They are just tweaking it enough. I was just talking to our boy Brandon. I'm going to see Knocked Loose with him and a few people in May. And he's like, am I going to die at this show? I'd be like, with a smile on your face, most likely. It's going to be a good time. I can't wait for that show. I can't wait to hear these new tracks. I haven't seen Knocked Loose since Laugh Tracks came out.
Oh, yeah.
So it's going to be a good time for sure.
Dude, and that album's coming out, and like we're going to talk about our top 5 for this quarter, and like then we have to add in the ones that have yet to come out yet, which is mind-boggling to me because I love my list so far, and it's just like I don't want to touch them, but they're going to get ruined.
It is weird to think that there's, and it's also like almost unfair. Like for instance, with Knocked Loose, be like, that's going to be easily like top 5. And I would be, for a lot of people, I would be mind fucked if it wasn't. Like these two singles that they put out incredible. So it's a lot to like stack up to. And with that being said, like Todd said, there's already a lot that's been out of like, no, this is easily top 5 for the year, if not like, you know, and I mean, if we're talking about like this decade alone, we're 4 years into it now. It's been incredible for heavy music.
I know. I still feel like it's on the up and up.
Keep it up. That's what we want. And we are going to talk about it. But before we get to the music, as always, you know, it hasn't been fair. Like, this is a beer and a metal show, and the metal usually takes over a lot because it's a lot easier to talk about. Yeah. But that doesn't mean we're not giving love to our beverages. Me specifically, I've been slacking just because I've been real broke lately. So I do, unfortunately, not have a beer again.
That's right. We are buying our own beer, by the way.
If you would like to buy us a beer, we're gonna have something set up real soon to make that a thing. But it is expensive. That's really like the gist of it. But do what we can. I have coffee, so like I feel like, you know, we can make the rules here. It's still brewed. I am excited for this one. What I'm getting at is like normally we try to do like top 5 beers, and it's easier at the end. But we're still gonna pick one beer. But the thing that's different compared to other Q like wrap ups that we've done, we're gonna take beers from like off the show too, because we don't always do that. And again, that's mainly for me, because like I have had other beers that I haven't had on the show that I want to highlight. But I've only had like one, I think, that we've had for recording. So since you have the beer, sir, what are you drinking first? And then what was your favorite from the first quarter of 2024?
I'm halfway through a Guinness right now.
Nice.
We got this like Irish pack from Costco, which had Harp, Guinness, and then Spindex. And I was like, this is perfect. So I picked that up just yesterday. So this is fueling me for this particular episode. But my top beer of Q1, because I actually couldn't figure out what any other beer I had, was the one I had for our episode with Gabe from Enterprise Earth. It's Tender Robot Hazy IPA, which actually I've been kind of on a kick for hazies because of it. It's from Meanwhile Brewing in Austin here, where I currently reside. And I remember Shannon got it, my girlfriend, and then I got something else. And then we both like to, you know, drink a little bit of the ones we chose, and then we swap and then try out each other's. And I was like, that tastes better than mine. And so I got Tender Robot as my next one. We liked it enough to get a 4-pack to go. So,
well, Guinness always a solid one. Tender Robot, fuck yeah. So I am sipping on today just because I really wanted to give a shout out to my dude Kenny G, more Kenny G, if you will. Back
I always
in
picture of the artist, and I picture him, your friend, playing.
Yeah. Same. I feel like he'd be like he could play a mean sax. He won't say it, but I think he can.
He's weirdly nude in my dream, but
yeah, that's not by design.
Yeah,
he works at a coffee shop back in Indiana, Bloomington specifically. So he sent this to me because he's like, I don't really drink coffee anymore, so like I get like a bag a week, which is what Sky gets too. And he's like, I'm going to send it to you, because he was listening to our 100th episode, where I was, of course, drinking coffee that day. And so shout out to my dude. And he was like, yeah, I'm going to send this to you. So what I got here, it's going to blur it out. I'll put it in front of my face here. Needmore is the name of it. And this one, I want to show wow, this is not going to work.
Oh, so
I have to take the blur off. It's always provocative. This one is Honduras 18 Rabbit. It's a blonde roast. It's got a silky sweet body, nice acidity, tropical fruit notes. And the bag, it's a direct trade, which is always real sick. Mm-hmm. And the bag is cool. Like the artwork on there is like a pen and ink type of deal, which I love that style. And it's just kind of like rolling hills, which is really nice, subtle. It's very pleasing.
Was that like a fallen tree stump or something?
I think so. There we go. We'll stay right there.
Nice
I'm pretty
log.
sure, it's a nice log. Kenny Loggins, nice log. Kenny G. There's a lot of Kenny
Danger
going on here.
Yeah.
Danger Zone. It's really good, dude. I'm a huge fan. I've brought this up on the show before. I love like light roast, blonde roast, pretty much same thing. It is sweet, which is cool, and I really like that. So yeah, thank you again, Kenny, for fueling this episode of Brewtal. But the beer I'm going with is one that Skylar and I, my wife, we just got back from our honeymoon in Mexico, which long overdue. We were very excited to go. It was a great time. And we're on like an all-inclusive resort. And one of the things that our room we had like a junior suite, is like a fully stocked fridge. So I'm going with one of the beers that I had in Mexico because it was so tasty. And obviously, being my honeymoon, I have a little bit of a draw to it. I'll have to post a picture of it, but it's called Pescadores, which means fishermen. And have you had that before, Todd? Like, I know you've been to Mexico before.
Yeah, in Puerto Vallarta. I was also cracking up to myself before you said anything, because I was like, what if it says Corona? Or just...
Oh my God. I've been yeah, Corona. Well, I had a shit ton of Dos Equis down there.
Yeah.
Which it made me chuckle, because like I saw people bringing back Dos Equis like on their carry-ons, and I'm like, it's not any different. Like, it is cool that you're getting it from the store. It's not a rare find. Well, I think it was more like the can, because it was like an EDM festival, I think, that they were like sponsoring. The can was really cool.
Okay.
But it's like, you don't need to bring that back. Like, it is imported, but it was cool to have. But no, no Corona, no Modelo, nothing like that. Pescadores, I hadn't had or heard of at all before. This one was their Pale Ale Mexicana, so their Mexican Pale Ale. And dude, it was so good. It was really, like, it had a lot of like nice fruit notes to it with the bitterness. It was very well balanced. I think it was like 5%, so it was like super crushable. Had like some nice color to it. If I remember, it had like a lot of like more of like an ambery type of body to it. And yeah, it was really tasty. Very fortunate that we were able to get it like every day in our room. And one of the days,
ask, how many have you had?
I probably had like at least, I'd say like a 6-pack on top of everything else.
On top of all the tequila.
So much tequila, dude. I'm glad that like Sky was way more into tequila than I was before we started dating. Like, I never fucked with it that much. Now it's like one of my go-tos. So thankfully it worked out that that's pretty much all we drank there. A lot of margaritas, a lot of tequilas, anything tropical really. But this one stood out, and I would love to try some of their other beers, because I think we were in like Riviera Maya. So I think that's where the brewery is from, like not too far from there. So yeah, those are the beers that we chose for Q1 of 2024. Todd, why don't you start us off? We're going to go with EPs first. We're going to list them.
List them first, then we'll discuss.
We'll list them first, then we're going to talk about it, because we always get sidetracked.
Yes, we like to go on tangents, rants, if you will.
They will.
All right. Top EPs. This is just the top, not Brewtal yet. So for those listening, just so you're understanding what I'm about to say. At number 5, I have Banks Arcade with Death 2. Death 2, not 1, 2.
The sequel.
At number 4, The Wise Man's Fear, What Slept Beneath Tarvos. And yes, that is an EP. I had to look that up.
I did as well.
Yeah. At number 3, I have Fracture, New Jersey, NJ, with Serenity's Decay. They're best known for playing outside of the New Jersey's Devil Stadium, which is awesome. We know of a couple bands now, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, that is sick.
At number 2 is Everchanger with their album Exterminatus. I can't wait to discuss that one. And at number one, I have Alluvial with Death is But a Door. But I mean, come on, like that had the number one spot the moment it dropped. So
hell yeah, dude.
Yeah, Banks Arcade, I loved what they're doing with the certain genres that they're working with. And it's really kind of all over the place, but to say metalcore is such a cop out. They're not really metalcore. They kind of are experimenting like Thornhill is doing in a way, but I love their sound. They get super heavy at times. There is cleans every once in a while. I just think they're onto something. I do think they're doing something fresh in the scene, and I really can't wait to see what they do after this. Maybe it's gonna be Death 3, Death 4. See?
No, I hope it goes back to like Death 1. Like you just went like like sometimes people do like the C, like it'll just be 2.
Yeah.
I'd be like, wasn't there a first one? We're like, no, like it's just 2, and then they go back.
Yes.
Or maybe next it'll be like 5. Just kind of skipping around, fuck with people.
It'll be like Godzilla -1.
Yeah.
The Wise Man's Fear, man. Talk about those features, first of all. What's his face from Signs of the Swarm? Just one of their heaviest tracks, really, I've ever heard from this band. Just especially with him on it. Like,
right.
That opening track after the intro is just like, what the fuck am I listening to? I don't remember them being this heavy. There's still some good courses in that EP too, but I was pleasantly surprised with the direction they went in for this, especially after that last album, the year prior, Atlas Runica, which had some really good moments in that as well. Fracture, New Jersey, dude. I because of the story on the PRP about them playing for the Devils, I was just like, oh. I've never heard of this band before. And then I went to go listen and found out they dropped an EP, and then I fell in love with it. I love the vocal styling. I don't know. It sounds like somebody, and I can't figure it out, but I just love what they're doing. Really good energy to their sound. Can't claim new metal at all with them. I would say very much like metallic hardcore, but not really. They have a lot to work with for their future. So I kind of hope they don't just stick to this sound and maybe expand their horizons with what they're doing. At number 2, Everchanger, dude. Exterminatus. They reminded me a lot of Glass Cloud in a way.
Nice.
Sort of with the music styling, but also the vocals kind of made me think of what's his face? I can't think of his name, but he was also on Sky Eats Airplane. Jerry?
Oh, yeah, it is Jerry.
Yeah, he reminded me of him. So I really like that aspect. And then they just brought it. This is really like no skips in the whole track list. And I love what they do in some of the songs. I think it's the opening track, but there's a point where the vocalist goes like, oh, and then the music carries through, and then he says, fuck. Like, just the way he says it, I was like, more people should do that.
You got to get creative with it nowadays.
Yes. And then Alluvial, dude. That EP, I feel like, just makes their future so bright because I went back, listened to Sarcoma, loved that album, but I think this EP is better, and I really think they're on an upward trajectory to keep that trend going, to even get better and better. And, we heard from Gabe. He's good friends with them and loves the band, and so do we. So
we do.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear what's next from them. They're already killing it this year, and I'm assuming they're probably touring on this EP a little bit, and you should check it out.
Yeah, that band, I was reading into them a little bit more because I was the same way where I listened to this EP. I listened to Sarcoma when it came out, but like once maybe. And it is a treasure. And I really like that because their first album was just an instrumental album. And then they got, so I'm blanking on the name, but if you go to the one right before Sarcoma, which not right before, it was like years before, they were an instrumental band. And then they got their singer now also blanking on his name, but he was in Suffocation before, and that just like took the band to like a whole new stratosphere, which literally going from like that first album to Sarcoma, that's when like they were really on people's radar. And like they've been in the scene, like not just with this band, but previous bands for a while too, which that's one of my favorite things. I know we've talked about this before, like getting older, and it's really cool to hear musicians and bands like still doing it and like only now getting like their flowers after doing it for so long.
I
which
kind of
is really
equated
cool.
to like a sports player or something, just because like, you know, maybe the rookie year didn't pan out too well, but then like they kept at it, changed teams, and then like dude.
That's a great analogy, and it's just really cool to see a band like Alluvial doing death metal justice. Like, and death metal's like, that's a broad term because they really incorporate a lot of different sounds, but like if you had to put it into like a box, probably that. I knew that was going to be your number one immediately, and I knew the Wise Man's Fear was going to be on there somewhere. The other ones, I guess Banks Arcade isn't surprising to me because I know how much you love that one.
I did shout them out a little bit when that dropped, but if I do have to recommend one that you haven't listened to, I would say Everchanger. Really, I was pleasantly surprised with that. That was like a really good day for EPs too. There's a few other ones I almost included, but that kind of like bubbled up out of the pack to be like, okay, I'm gonna choose that from that batch.
And that's what we're kind of talking about anytime we do these lists, are the ones that in a sea of strong releases, the ones that just etch out a little bit, like they stand out a little bit more, something about it, whether it's the album art, the sound, the production, anything like that.
That or we just became addicted to it.
Yeah. Anytime there's something that like I have to listen to again, I know that it's doing it for me. And even if I kind of like forget about it, then it pops up later. I'm like, oh yeah, no, that's the one. Which actually is how I'm gonna start off the list. That's how this next one came into the 5 spot. Gimmick with Don't Belong to Us is my number 5. Number 4 is Alluvial with Death Is But a Door. 3 is Kawanashi with The Three Faces of Beauty, a Violet Misinterpretation of Morgan Montgomery.
Say that 5 times.
Number 2 is Amiana with Goddess Wept.
Nice.
And then number 1 was Dead Icarus with Ad Infernium. I have such a hard time saying that Latin phrase. But yeah, dude, that I have to say Dead Icarus rose to the top.
Dude, I noticed when that dropped, you're like, this is such a fun EP, and I was just like, okay, he's jiving with it.
It's just the fact that like having Alex, I always mess up his last name. It's like there's no way. Alex from Atreyu.
Yes.
That's the easiest way to say it. But I remember seeing when we talked to Gabe about Dead Icarus, like I remember seeing it like a couple years ago. I mean, like interesting, like, but I didn't realize that I thought Gabe was only like producing it, not that he was like an integral part, like the main songwriter.
I actually didn't even know he was involved at all. So when he revealed that, I was like, really? Oh, cool.
Yeah. Just knowing that like Gabe was the main songwriter, and it's so different than Enterprise Earth. But it's like he said it himself, it's like it's more of like straightforward structures, like more pop centered, and it is fun to I guess what really drove me to is like, this is what I would imagine Atreyu sounding like if Atreyu didn't suck nowadays. And in some ways, like I like it better than some of the stuff from Atreyu. And that's no shade. I love like the first few Atreyu albums, iconic. We'll always love them. But even when we talked about on the show, like Atreyu hasn't been good for like 10 years. So it was really refreshing to me to hear Alex back on the mic and just having like such a fun metalcore album. I loved it. I listened to it constantly. I'll backtrack here a little bit, but Gimmick is the one that I discovered on Lawn Chair Youth, that YouTube channel, which I absolutely love and have found many a new bands from there. And they're based from, I know it's Alabama. I want to say it's Birmingham. But it's not just specifically Birmingham bands that like come through. And I think we've talked about this on the show, but they do like one takes of like one song. And for instance, like when we featured Capra, the song that we featured Solano, they did with Lawn Chair Youth. And it's a collective, but I think one of the dudes in Gimmick is also like part of Lawn Chair Youth. There's a connection there somewhere. But anyway, it's a lot of the stuff, I'm going to say this, is like, especially with the EPs and the album, but I just had like a lot of fun with it. Like it brought a lot of energy that I'm looking for. And Gimmick is a very like diverse sounding hardcore album. Like there are ones that kind of border like deathcore. There's like there's a lot of like hip hop influences without it being nu metal in there too. It's just a really fun, a lot of really good energy. That band is going places for sure. They're not a gimmick. That's really it. They're fucking,
they're not gimmicky at all.
They're not gimmicky at all. Alluvial, we've already kind of talked about at length, so we'll leave that. Kawanashi, I love Kawanashi.
I knew that one was going to be on yours.
It took me a few years to get into them. I understand why people do not like them.
They're not for everyone.
I do love this whole thing on TikTok with Peter Romo, and like people being like, "Tell me this dude doesn't sound like SpongeBob." And there's been so many like variations of him being like, "I don't sound like SpongeBob," and I love that they're like really leaning into it. You have to. But the thing with Kawanashi that I really like, the music is really, it's fun, but like mathcore, but done differently. And I really big into like the stories. We're always talking about the journey, but like,
let me go off a little bit. His lyricism, unmatched. It's
so good, dude. And like the lyricism, like the wordplay in there, and it's just so good. Ever since they dropped like the sound of car keys, I hate the sound of car keys. I was hooked, and I didn't realize that was on this EP because it came out like so long in between.
Yeah, I honestly thought it was a standalone too, and then you're like, oh wait a minute.
Yeah, which is great because that song fucks. And shout out to
ever cross the street, damn.
Don't ever cross the street, dude. It's a one way, most likely. Finally, with Emiana, it's basically Chelsea Grin, like OG Chelsea Grin. Pablo, the drummer for Chelsea Grin for a while, is one of my favorite drummers. I love like his style, and I love his vocal stylings as well. So to hear him and Alex Kohler back in the mix, much like with Dead Icarus, like it has that nostalgic feel for me, and I'm sure you too, and a lot of people, just because of being in the scene and a fan for so long. But it was really cool to hear them like not skip a beat, but it's still sounding like its own entity. Like there's elements of Chelsea Grin in there, but there's a lot of things that make it stand apart from that, and it's really cool to hear again, like Alex and Pablo back together. And I think it's Jack or Jake, like one of the other original guitarists of Chelsea Grin in the mix. Again, we've talked about this a lot, like just having these musicians legitimately wanting to do something like this. Like you could really hear the passion coming through it. And this is another prime example of that. And I remember when this dropped, dude, I was super high and listened to this EP on loop for like an hour, and I never got sick of it. I still am not sick of it. It was raining here.
Did you weep?
I did weep many a times. So those are my top 5 EPs. Anything else before we move on to the albums?
No, man. I think solid picks from you. There's a couple on there that were almost on mine, especially the Amayana. But I couldn't drop any of the ones it chose. But Yeah, I love what you chose. I need to finish listening to the Kawanashi. I haven't fully listened to the whole EP, so this is now my catalyst to do so.
The
So
last
let's
song
move.
is one of my favorites.
See, you're already hyping it for me. I can't. I can now. I'm gonna have to listen to that after this. But let's move on to top albums. Again, this is top albums, not most brutal. So there's definitely a difference. These are kind of like our favorites of the bunch. These could be heavy. These could involve no screams at all. But as long as it's metal, pretty much that's pretty much where we. Because there's actually been some really great like punk records this year and
Oh
and
yeah.
whatnot. So can't choose those unfortunately, but
No.
here we
But
go.
these are within the realms of metal.
Exactly. At number 5, Enterprise Earth, Death and Anthology. That's my number 5.
That's saying something. I'm
number
very
f-
curious
yeah.
now.
At number 4, I have Defocus with There Is a Place for Me on Earth. Love that album. Love it. And number 3, this is kind of a newcomer for myself included. Avrilize with their album Freaks. They're from Germany, I believe. There's something in the water in that country this year.
Yeah.
And number 2, I have Wrist Meet Razor with Degeneration.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
I'll tell a tale about that. And number 1, Frail Body, Artificial
I knew
Bouquet.
it. I knew it.
Oh.
I knew it.
All right, let's talk about them. Enterprise Earth, it was going to be on this list. It actually kept getting bumped down. And when it was at 5, I'm like, okay, I need to stop.
I need to stop.
Like we talked about in the interview with Gabe, I really think this album, and he kind of said it himself, is kind of like a restart for the band, like a fresh blank slate to go off of, even though like, this is not a discredit to anyone he's worked with before. Those albums had their time and place, and we're day ones of this band. We've listened to everything. We love it all. But like, I love this core group that they have now. I really think this is a launching pad for greatness. I just love the variety of the tracks. Everyone brings something different and something new that you haven't heard from the band before. And I think that's so refreshing. So I really think this should be in a lot of people's top 5s for the whole year. It's just such a great record. And number 4, Defocus, they switched their sound up a little bit. From what I remember from their previous album, I don't know. I don't want to say new metal influence, but there is other things there that really elevate this. I just think they're on to something. Like I said, there's something in the water in Germany. I think they're from Germany too. What's funny is this Defocus album made me learn about Avrilize, which then I found out they came out with that album Freaks, which we had listed on one of our lists. And then I fell in love with this album, and I was like, damn, I actually kind of like this a little bit better.
Yeah.
Even though they're both equally perfect, in my opinion. Avrilize, I would say, involves EDM a little bit, even though that's not really it. It's just there's digital effects and layers to it that really bumps up the energy. So again, you could say new metal, but I'm kind of going away from that just because I don't want to like pigeonhole them. You just have to check them out.
Yeah, Defocus kind of does that too.
Yeah,
with those elements,
it's really that change in sound, and then I think their like Spotify recommended artists got updated because of that, because I think they were on that, and I was like, well, because I was like, I really love the sound.
Yeah.
Like, oh, who else? Who's the recommended? Who else sounds like this? Because I was kind of like on a search because of Defocus's album, and that led me to Avrilize, and I was like, hell yeah, like let's go.
Nice.
And then when they finally dropped the whole album, I listened through it once, and then I was like on loop. It was like For You on Mayana. I just kept listening to it, and I fell in love with it. At number 2, Wrist Meat Razor, dude. I at first didn't like it, and then I kept listening to it.
Love when that happens,
because it's a throwback in the sense that it's more. It sounds like something that would have came out when MySpace was at its peak, but at the same time, it sounds so fresh, and I love what they're doing. I really haven't listened to their back catalog before, so this is kind of my introduction to them. You know, the vocals are a little bit more on the screamo side, but I just fucking love it, dude. I love the lyrics. I love the album art. To come out so close to Easter with having people on the wire crosses, I was like, that was probably intentional. It had to be.
That definitely.
But dude, they're in that niche of this, you know, resurgence of MySpace bands. And I really think they're on to something with this album. I fell in love with it, and it's one of my go-tos now. In the car, I constantly listen to it, but not as much as Frail Body, dude. And I know it like just came out, but like, this is a bold statement, but I really think this Frail Body album, Artificial Bouquet, to repeat it, is what Converge's Jane Doe was to that generation. This is to ours. I really think this is that strong of an album to be. It's just everything about it, dude. What's funny is vocals sound like Jacob from Converge, who did the artwork for the album. And by the way, on Apple Music, they give movement to the album art sometimes, and so it's like little raindrops of water with the background. It almost looks like something underwater, that's cool. But then I didn't realize this kind of ties in, because I didn't realize that there's like a shape of a man in it. If you go and look back, you're like, you start noticing little things, and that's what I wanted to touch upon. Is like, this album takes more than one listen to get into it, because it is very jarring, especially with the vocals. It's very abrasive. Again, think Converge, but this is like a love child of Converge and Def Heaven. And it's
absolutely
just an unholy matrimony, in my opinion. It's so good. I just love the bass. I love the tone of everything. Whoever produced and mixed this album, kudos to you. This is like a 5 out of 5 album. Like this, like no faults found. Those 2 bands I mentioned, if you're a fan of Converge or Def Heaven, you're going to like this. But the more you listen to it, kind of like the album artwork, is you just start noticing more. You start picking out more nuances. You start, you know, honing in on one of the instruments, the bassist of this band. I would love to like revisit bass personally and like learn your tabs, because it's that good. And all the songs are so focused, but they're also seamless the way they transition.
Yeah.
And actually, the whole album is perfect in my opinion. You know, it starts out great, and there's peaks and valleys to it, which I think makes them stand out given the genres that they're kind of navigating. You know, like shoegaze, hardcore, punk, even. You know, post-hardcore in a way. The back half of the album, I think, is actually better than the first half. So I really suggest just, you know, track 1 to the last, just go through it, and you're going to just start finding little moments in each song that you love. And that's what made me fall in love with this dude.
Yeah, that's a solid list there, friend. Excuse me. I am sad that I didn't listen to Frail Body beforehand, because like I was texting you last night, like I just like finished my list and then listened to it, and there we go. It definitely would have been on my top 5, because I agree with everything you're saying. It's an incredible album, and like we kind of talked about last year, especially with like the Full of Hell Nothing and things of that nature.
God, yes.
It's really cool, because like you said, there's a lot of nuances and there's a lot of reasons to revisit it, but it's nice if you want to focus in and find those nuances, but you can keep it as background and still have an enjoyable experience. Like I was writing last night, listening to him, like, this is good. Like, I don't want to have to like listen to the lyrics necessarily. Like, they're there, but I'm more focused on like what I can do at hand while enjoying the music. And that's honestly, really powerful.
Honestly, because the vocals are so abrasive, again, I think Converge and Def Heaven, you hear a little bit of each. Yeah. But you really focus on the music because you can't. I still don't really know half the lyrics without looking them up, and I did because I love genius.com. And I kind of, my favorite thing to do is to read the lyrics and go along, because then you can start listening to the screams and start making it out as you go, little by little. But I almost think it's to their benefit with how abrasive it is, because then you really focus on the instruments, and then those really start to blossom in your ears.
Blossom. Perfect segue there. Solid list per usual there, sir. And a lot of what I wouldn't expect, especially with like, well, I knew you really like the Defocused album, which it is incredible.
Yeah, I did state that.
And I'll have to check out the, what was the other one? One like Defocused?
Oh, Avrilize, Avralize. I don't even know what that term means, but you can't miss the album art. It's got a huge skull on it, so
hell yeah, have to check those ones out as well. And yeah, that Defocused, I really enjoyed that one. I just didn't listen to it as much as the ones that I'm going to be talking about here in a minute. But yeah, killer stuff there, homie. So starting off, like I was telling Todd before recording, usually the case is like the first 3 on every list, like pretty confident. And then 4 and 5 kind of get like a little bit like I'll cycle through a lot of things down that way.
It's a gray area.
It's a gray area. And that's not a slight to be like, oh, I didn't know where to put this. Like, so I'm going to put it at like 5.
Yeah. Again, this is like, to choose a top 5 out of so much is saying something.
It's always hard, but we love doing it, even if it is like causing sleep loss and shit like that. So with that being said, I'm starting off the list with Inferius with Salt Your Earth.
Hell yeah.
The Last 10 Seconds of Life with No Name Graves. Bloom with Maybe in Another Life.
I knew it.
Boundaries with Death is Little More. And number 1 is Enterprise Earth with Death and Anthology.
Hell yeah.
It was really hard for me to put Boundaries at number 2, just because like I do love that album so much. And that's not saying I didn't love Enterprise Earth, because obviously I put it at number 1, but I've listened to that album, Enterprise Earth, that is like so many times. And like it did help that we have Gabe on the show. But even if we didn't, I would still be listening to it because like we already talked about on the interview with Todd here, this episode, it is really like them coming into their own. It feels, it's just like a really, really complete album. Not to say that the other ones have not been, but you can hear that everyone is firing on all cylinders. And like we talked about with Gabe, like the whole band was part of the writing process, and you can really hear that like in the final products. It's just, again, it's a really fun album, and it is going to take them to hopefully the status that they deserve. Not that they aren't huge already, but more so than where they're at. And Blood and Teeth is one of my favorite tracks, and it will be for like the whole year. I will say I almost put that as my most brutal, but I'm like, I'm not going to go and do the same thing I always do, where it's like more emotionally heavy and like start, because I've done that too many times, but that would have been it. So it's not, for a little precursor there. But again, to cycle back, Inferius, dude, that album, it just got that energy that it's so raw, like for a metalcore album. Mm-hmm. Which is the same thing with Boundaries as well, but there's a little bit of a difference in sound. I really like what they're doing, and
dude, even the EP before this was great. That's what really turned me on to them. I can't think of the name, but I know it's got red in the cover.
Perfect, narrows it down.
Yeah,
but no, you're right. They when I was reading their bio, seeing that because they're from the Midwest, which makes sense because of how hard hitting it is. And there's like, I don't know if it's like former members or like current members of each band, but like Denialist, who we featured on here, there's members from them. In Dying Arms, And there's like another one too. And I know that Casket Maker's guitarist, one of their guitarists junior, plays bass in Inferius too. And that's kind of how
awesome.
I heard about them in the first place, just because we're both big Casket Maker fans here on Brewtal. So to have that full length, dude, front to back, it's just like, again, it's just got that really fun energy. And I want to be, trying to grab the mic. I want to be staged. I want to be in the pit. Like, it's giving me all of those things. And it just got that like that rawness to it while sounding like well produced that I really, really like. Last 10 Seconds of Life. This is a band this is going to be kind of a theme for a lot of like other picks too, where like I've been a casual listener over the years, but only since like, well, they had their self-titled that came out last year. That really, what a year. And I was like, that one was cool. And then they came out with the EP, Dequisition of Extermination, something to that effect.
All I know is that he's like Sparta kicking someone on the cover.
So hard, dude. It was really like
made you pay attention.
Next level. It did. And I know I've brought up my brother on here before, but this was one of the only times he's ever texted me first, be like, dude, did you listen to like that new Last 10 Seconds album?
Like, no.
And I was like, yeah, it's great. And from when I revisited it, and I know a lot of fans will say this too, this is like one of the albums that sounds like the early stuff too, but with a new lineup, which is cool. I think much like Enterprise Earth, this is them like really coming into their own, and while still staying true to the older material. It's such a weird heaviness. Like, it is heavy, but like there's a lot of like dissonance that they really rely on, and like it's not even like layers or atmospheres or anything like that. Like, it's just kind of bizarre with the structure that really works. And I love it.
What's his face on vocals was such a good addition.
Tyler, getting him on there.
He's, when you hear him, it's him, and that's what I love about it. Very distinct.
Yeah, and I know like he kind of gives like Storm Stroop, the original vocalist of Last 10 Seconds, like it's kind of similar in that range as opposed to like was it C. Robert, the last vocalist? Who's in Crystal Lake?
Yes. It's like the string.
Total opposite. Hear me out. But yeah, this is one that I constantly go back to, much like all the rest. Bloom, I instantly fell in love with. They're basically like the Australian counterparts. Like, they're the counterparts to counterparts. And that's not a slight, but you can hear the influences in there. And there's a reason why I love it's the same reason I love counterparts. Like, it's just that melodic metalcore, but the Bloom is more on the melodic side than like counterparts would be. So again, I only make that comparison because that was like what I instantly felt like, but they are their own entity. It doesn't help when you have like songs like it's like Bound to Your, there's something like Bound in there and like Bound to the Burn, like counterparts like already triggered. But regardless, I really love this album. It's a good length, and same with Boundaries. Like, it's only like half an hour, like if that. So it's like really digestible, but again, a lot of energy when they want to put that forth. Cause again, like there's a lot of more melodic songs on this album, but I think it's a really good balance between the metal part and the melodic part, which, melodic metalcore is like my bread and butter, according to Spotify, which they're not wrong.
They know me so well.
They know me so well. But on the opposite side of metalcore is Boundaries, dude. This is a band that Todd and I had talked about off camera a lot, to be like, we kind of slept on them. Again, like casual listener over the year, but this is their magna opus. It is incredible. Like,
talk about the transition into the stem song, because holy,
oh my god, dude, I love that transition.
Dude, honestly, the only reason that album's not on my top 5 because I just have been so distracted. And it's the case of I know it's good. So it might pop up later in the year, but like I've listened to it a number of times and like I know how great it is, but it's just I have to state that it's like, why isn't Boundaries on your list? It's because I haven't gotten around to it other than what I've been listening to.
Which is fair, dude. That was one I forgot that it was coming out like this soon.
Did too.
I thought it was in like April for some reason, and we were still in Mexico when it came out. So like I downloaded it for the plane ride, and I just like had it on loop for, you know, a couple hours, and I listened to it like on vacation too, on our honeymoon. So you know it's good if I'm taking time to listen to it in that capacity. But I knew it would be good. We both talked about that at length, like off show, and it was really cool too. Todd sent me, they were doing an AMA last night.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite things is they of course, like a fan asked like where they drew influences from, and the top 2 were Misery Signals and Del Wars Prada, which you can hear very much so. And one of my favorite comments is like, someone's like, it's true what they say, like your favorite band's favorite band is Misery Signals.
Yeah. Influenced so many people, and also RIP.
RIP. I want to make it to one of those shows, dude, having Carl and Jesse doing their respective songs.
I've had the pleasure of seeing Carl. They were one of my first shows. It was at the Fire Hall in Erie.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Such a small crowd, criminally small, but they were just coming out with Mirrors, and which is still one of my favorite albums of them. Anyone should listen to the title track Mirrors, because it's such a good message of like, you can really be whoever you want to be. You know, you stare in the mirror and you like see this image of yourself, but you really can be whoever you want to be in this life. It's like such a good message.
Yeah, dude. It is cool to see Misery Signals getting their flowers. Not that they haven't been like, obviously they've been very influential for a lot of bands, but I think it's only becoming like, unfortunately, like towards the end of their career that they've really gotten that notoriety, because bands like for instance, like I know Brendan Murphy has been such an advocate for Misery Signals, and like Counterparts is huge. So that means, again, like your favorite band's favorite band is like, I love Boundaries. So like, what's their influence? Oh, Misery Signals, Del Wars Prada. Cool. They have a stellar back catalog that you can go to. And yeah, both those are influences really do shine in this album. Noticeable. But again, it's not like a carbon copy. Like, this is Boundaries doing what Boundaries does best, pushing the fucking boundaries of metalcore. I'm trying to go see their headliner, which has Kaunashi and No Cure on it. So that might have to happen. So yeah, quick recap: Inferius at number 5, Last 10 Seconds of Life at number 4, Bloom number 3, Boundaries at number 2, number 1, Enterprise Earth. That concludes our normal EPs and albums. So now we're getting into the meat and potatoes, if you will. We should get Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson on this show, because I know he's a Hopwolf dude.
He has to be.
He has to be. We're gonna get into the Brewtal EPs, albums, song, and band. So Todd, start us off with the Brewtal EPs. What was giving you a punch through the face Q1?
Just infinite stank face. We're gonna start off with Amayana with Goddess Wept. So great to hear Alex scream again. It was, and then to do it that well. Need I say more? Yeah, I need to stick to the list. We're We're getting sidetracked here. And number 4, Ghost of Eller. Nice. Afraid at Every End. That was one of our first features at the beginning of the year. And what can be said? I will say some later. I need to stay on track. And number 3 is Behest with Celestial Fortress. Can't wait to talk about them. And number 2, Hostages with The Age of Suffering, Volume 1. Come on now. And then at number 1, Pine Box with Neurosis.
I knew it.
The first song on that EP is called Stupid, and it's stupid heavy, and I love it. Really gets you going. Yeah, dude, it's been a strong year in EPs. Like this was actually pretty hard to choose. Amayana, just for obvious reasons. Because they didn't make it into my top EPs, I was like, this is a shoo-in for most brutal. Ghost of Eller, that was always in this list. You know, having talked to what's his face, it was such an honor.
Trevor.
Yeah, Trevor. Just because, you know, he's from our hometown area, not specifically Erie, but Oil City.
Mm-hmm.
And to hear him talk about it, just, you know, his mindset going into it, you can just hear the passion. I really think he's just getting better and better with this. And I can't wait to actually talk about what's next for him, even though we have to keep it a secret. But
yeah,
he's doing awesome things. I think he's a fantastic vocalist. So if you're listening to this, know that.
Keep that shit up.
Number 3, Behest, dude. I really don't know how to describe them. They're just, when you listen to it, you're like, I want to keep listening to this. And it's just fucking heavy. It's cool EP artwork. This one has been like, I keep coming back to it, and I was like, it's got to be up there on the list for me. I like to compare bands because it gets you a little idea of, you know, might this interest you? But I really can't think of another band that they sound like, which is a compliment.
That's a good thing.
Yeah. Number 2, Hostages, dude. When that EP dropped, I was just like, I remember, I think we've had some of their singles on playlists before, and I always remember being like, all right, make note of this band. And when they finally dropped the EP, I was like, fuck yeah. It's got some great features on there, I believe. And then Pine Box, dude, Neurosis. My first listen of it, especially that first track, I was just like, this song's stupid. And that's probably why they know. Yeah. It's just so good. It's hot and heavy out the gates. Like I keep talking about the first track, and then it just makes you want to re-listen to it again and again. I don't know if they're deathcore. I don't know how to describe them musically. You know, deathcore, death metal. Just a good time.
That's it. That's the new genre. It's like, it's just a good time.
It's just gonna lay down your Pine Box and listen. Like that's all you gotta do.
After being a hostage.
Yeah. Yeah. That's my most brutal EPs of Q1. I just know there's gonna be way more throughout the year, but we'll see what happens to this list over time. But I love these picks for sure.
I remember you really hyping Pine Box, and I have to revisit that one. I only listened to it once, but I really liked what I heard.
Mm-hmm.
Hostages, that's a great pick. I will say it did not make my list, but it was on the cusp, and not because I didn't like it. Again, I just didn't listen to it as much, but like dumb, stupid heavy.
That's kind of how I got to this list, because this list was rearranged repeatedly. But when I settled on it, I was like, this is the truth. Like, this is what I listen to the most for sure.
Ghost of Eller, that was really cool. Please check out our episode with Trevor, which I believe it was episode 99 from a couple months ago, but that was really cool. And that it's a 3-banger that just doesn't let up. And yeah, again, Trevor's onto some really cool things. And I think they actually have a new track dropping real soon, which is exciting.
I saw something. And he's really good friends with Awakened Providence, who's featured on this EP. So
yes,
let's go.
I think the only one that I just didn't straight up listen to, but I'm excited to, is the Behest one.
Yeah. If I had to, I would recommend them for sure. Of course, Pine Box just as my number 1, but those are really the 2 unknowns for you. So I encourage everyone listening to go check them out.
Got a lot of homework as always with these lists here, Hopwolves, which is exciting because we also have homework. I'm starting off my Brewtal EPs with Backbiter, with Demonstration of Decimation. It's a fun one to say. And I really like that album art too. Number 4, this one, I almost wanted to put it like, because they came out at the same time, and it's both like MySpace deathcore revival, and I think they're both from Florida. But anyway, I'm going with Lilith's Demise.
Nice. And
it is their Lilith in Aries. The other band I'm talking about is Slam Witch, which I love. I love that name.
Just love it.
But yeah, Lilith's Demise is at number 4. Number 3, I was telling Todd this. I thought this was an album, but it is in fact an EP. Cell with The Unbearable Form. Number 2 is Reminiscence with Misery Eternal. And number 1 is Jester for The Amusement of You.
Ooh, nice pick there.
So Todd told me about Jester, and for the record, it's spelled with a Z, so it's Jezter.
This is an EP we missed, by the way.
We did miss this one, and we're sorry because it's incredible. I gotta be honest, like I was not vibing with the name. I'm like, this is gonna be fucking stupid. It is not fucking stupid. It's fucking so good.
They're not clowning around.
They're not clowning around. This is your amusement. And the thing, like, compared to the rest of the list that really stood out is it's kind of like in the vein of Psycho Frame, not musically, but what I mean by that is they have like a few different vocalists in the band. At least I think so. And it's more punk driven than it is like hardcore, deathcore, anything like that. But there's still a lot of those elements in there. And of note, this is also kind of like the Psycho Frame, because the one factor that's always in these ones that I just seem to always fucking love is Hunter Young, who
his name always comes up. Who is this man?
I don't know how he does it, dude. I don't know how he does this many projects and produces the amount that he does and how heavy they all are.
And the quality.
The quality, it just still blows my mind that this is the same dude that we first heard about in Mood Ring.
Yes.
Which,
dude, I always think of the gif of the pen on fire. Like, that's him.
That's him. I would love to get Hunter Young on the show. I'd love to pick his brain and just have a sit down.
And put it on the universe.
Dude, this album, again, I use the term fun. I had so much fun listening to this because it is a very, like, it's a short EP, as an EP is, but it's just like very diverse in its sound. Again, like it's more punk driven than anything. And it's got that really like raw energy that comes with punk. And, it's so fun, dude. I love the production. I love the songwriting. It is just one that I kind of forgot about. And then anytime it would come up, I'd be like, oh, fuck, dude, this is so good. And then I just listen to it for like a few days and then kind of forget about it. I'm like, oh, yeah, this is, because I didn't realize that this EP like had dropped, like Todd said.
Yeah.
Because I
forget I think Twitter helps. I think, or X for whoever, whatever.
Yeah,
it's Twitter. But
it's Twitter.
Usually hardcore Twitter is a buzz, for better or for worse, but someone had mentioned like, don't sleep on this or something, and I was like, I don't even know who this is. And then
how could I sleep on it?
And then of course, whose name came up? Hunter. And Hunter Young. I was like, well, I have to listen to it.
On the MySpace deathcore revival, again, Lilith's Demise and Reminiscence are both in that pocket. Reminiscence I just listened to more, and of course, like, we're both huge suckers for sound clips. This one has a lot of good. Oh yeah. And plus Jay Muller, who's the vocalist of Reminiscence, like I really like his Insta. It's like Beatdown King, something like that. Something pretty cliche, but like appropriate. And it's like his memes are always so fucking good. So that makes it more fun, but like, they're just like, they're heavy hitting. And again, it's just got that sound, that MySpace deathcore era sound, which I love that's a thing now, especially with like Lilith's Demise. Like that's Florida deathcore.
Female vocalist too. So fuck yeah.
Yeah. female vocalist, same. I want to, again, I keep bringing up Slamwich because like they dropped at the same time. They're both female fronted. They're both in the same pocket and they're both fucking killing it. Slamwich is just, again, really fun to say. But Littlest Demise, like, it's that Florida deathcore, dude, that really has that MySpace deathcore revival.
Y'all are
sound.
cooking down in the swamps there.
I want to come to this fry, dude. Like, bring me to it. And also of note, I think I believe it's the only feature on Littlest Demise, but it's the dude from Trichiotomy, which is another phenomenal like Florida deathcore band. So it's just everything you could want, and like that revival sound for Littlest Demise specifically. Reminiscence is definitely more of like a modern deathcore sound, but with inklings of that era. And then Cell is just like, they've got a specific sound to it. Like, it's just like, I don't want to, it's like not metallic hardcore, but again, like it's got like kind of like those punk influences to it with the metallic part of it. I just think the production sounds like it's metallic. And I love spitting the unbearable form. I want to bear the form. It's a beautiful thing. I can't wait to see them live. I know it's going to go the fuck off whenever it does. And that's a band that, again, like has been around for a couple years now that we've since have been doing the show, and they've been on our radar, and they are continuously getting heavier and better. And that's what we like to hear.
Yeah,
so,
to our benefit.
To our benefit, and maybe not to the benefit of unfortunate people in the pits, but or two, I don't know, whatever. But yeah, that's Brewtal EPs again. Recap: Backbiter number 5, Littlest Demise 4, Cell 3, Reminiscence 2, and Jester with a Z at number 1.
Dude, I was surprised by Jester, but that's awesome. I'm glad you gravitated towards them.
So good, dude. So fun. I'm gonna listen to it after recording.
Do it. I need to re-listen to it. This is why we do this, because now I get to revisit some of the ones we've listened to over the past couple of months. But let's talk about most Brewtal albums. I'm going to start off. This will be somewhat controversial because there are cleans, but it's still
interesting.
But it's still so fucking heavy. Carry On Veil with Cannibals Anonymous. I was not expecting the cleans from them in a way, because I actually really haven't listened to them much. So this is a little bit of my introduction to them, even though I knew they existed and they have had prior albums. The album artwork, let's talk about. Oh, no, I'm getting off track. Let's do the list first.
Focus, dude.
Focus. So that's number 5, Carry On Veil. And number 4, Scarlet Rot with their self-titled. Logan Young with what's his face? Everyone knows who he is.
Dickie Allen.
Dickie Allen. Get those two together, you have magic. And number 3, The Last 10 Seconds of Life, No Name Graves. That was always in this list, so it had to be there. Number 2, Vitriol with Suffer and Become.
Nice.
What a batshit crazy record, but that guitarist is chef's kiss. And number 1, Going Overseas to Germany with Cogitations with Relinquished. That took number 1 the moment I listened to it for the first time.
Yeah.
Just the features, our friend from Gut Rectomy. Come on now.
Yeah. Alan from Distant on there.
If you want a heavy album in the gym, in your car, while you're sitting at home, Cogitations. That's all I can say. And the Vitriol, dude, I really think they have transcended their own sound. Their guitarist has kind of been given free rein to really expand on his talents on this record in particular, because they have other ones, but I really think he was just like, can I do this? And they're like, yeah, go for it.
He also does vocals of note.
I didn't know.
He's a vocalist.
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, all I can say is Suffer and Become. Great album artwork too. It's like
Yeah, I love that
it's like
one.
a knight, but it's just the skeleton. You see like maybe his a little bit of his armor or his sword or something, but then there's like snakes intertwined in the skeleton. It's just really cool. It's kind of like medieval. But if you are a guitarist or an aspiring guitarist, listen to them, and I think you'll be inspired. Last 10 seconds of life. I'll keep this short, but like, dude, what an album! And it was like you knew the hype was there after that EP, and then they come out with this, and you're just like, okay, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Scarlet Rot, dude. Just if you like Logan Young's guitar sounds mixed with Dickie Allen's screams, like you're just gonna have a good time with this thing. It's heavy as fuck, of course, and then.
And it's all Elden Ring lore, right? Isn't that?
I'm pretty sure. I think so. Elden Ring is one of those games that really defeated me too many times. I still have yet to beat it, so I don't know the lore because I just can't get to learning it because I'm so bad at the game. But go check it out. If that is true, which I think it is, if you're a video game fan, I think you'll appreciate that. And then Carry On Veil, dude, that album cover is brutal as fuck, dude. It's just like mouthpieces. There's even a penis on it. Cannibals Anonymous, dude. The lyrics are all about cannibals. Like, think of Jeffrey Dahmer. It's just insane. And then again, there's cleans on, which is not expected. Like, they're there in the first track, and you're just like, is this a progressive album? But dude, it's like tech death, which I love about it.
Is that I might be thinking of a different, but Carry On Veil made me think a lot of like Black Dahlia Murder with
yes, no, I'm so glad you brought that up. That's what I really get with this album is Black Dahlia Murder. I kind of think they wear that influence on their sleeve to their benefit, and if you love them, you're gonna love this absolutely. Just again, it's kind of a warning, like expect singing. But I think they do it well, and I think they do it distinctly enough that it just doesn't sound cookie cutter. I think they really make it work for themselves, and I was pleasantly surprised with this, and it's brutal at the same time, so it's making the list.
Check that shit twice, dog. Which you did. Yeah, that's of course great picks, dude. I am surprised at Vitriol being that high. Not that it doesn't deserve that spot. I just didn't think you jammed it as much as you did. Shame in Its Afterbirth is definitely one of my top songs of the year. I love that track.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that kind of, it wasn't like play it on loop kind of build up for me. It's just, I always kept coming back to it, and I was just like, okay, I really do like this album. And that's what kind of put it at number 2 is I liked it just enough more than Last 10 Seconds of Life, which I fell in love with on first listen. So that says something.
I will say it pained me. I was trying to put Vitriol in my list somewhere. It did not make it. Not because it doesn't fuck, because it totally does. But there's just ones that I came back to a little bit more regularly. And yeah. So good. I got to check out that Carry On Veil. I haven't listened to it yet.
I think you're really going to like it, especially I'm so glad you brought it up because of the Black Dahlia influences. I really think you're going to like it.
Hell yeah, dude. And for the Hopwolves, can you just run through it again? What was the list from 5 to 1?
5, Carry On Veil, 4, Scarlet Rot, 3, The Last 10 Seconds of Life, 2, Vitriol, and then 1, Cogitations. Again. Yeah. A weird plural name, but dude, I can't stress enough. Go listen to Cogitations.
I completely agree. Which leads me to the Brewtal albums for your boy here. Number 5, I'm going with Aborted and Vault of Horrors. 4 is Dissected with Golden Hues of Decay. Number 3, Orbital Gate with Astral Scavenger. Number 2 is Cogitations with Relinquished. And number 1 is Last 10 Seconds of Life with No Name Graves.
Oh, yeah. I had a feeling they'd be on your list.
It's just one of those, dude. Again, we talked about it at length before. It's just such a different type of heavy that I really, really like, but still incredibly fucking heavy. And of note, that's a PA band, which I actually didn't really know that until recently, which is, we're always excited for that. Cogitations, dude, instant love. That shit is so fucking heavy. Like you said, the features are on there. I love the album art, and it is of note that that particular artist, who I am blanking on the name, so I apologize for, but so many killer album art, or so much killer album art has been from this particular artist. The one for Cogitations, the one for Last 10 Seconds of Life, Emiana's. There's like another one on there too. It might have been the Vitriol one that he did too. But anyway,
you're right about that. Yeah.
It's like his style's like these oil paintings that are just really cool. And a lot of Unique Leader records. Like, I think that's like their go-to artist.
Yes.
I don't think I know, because like Cogitations is on Unique Leader, so is Last 10 Seconds. So odds are you've seen like his work before, and it's incredible. Orbital Gates, that's a solo project. Brutal Slam Death, dude. That
pained me not to put that on the list, but dude, it's like death metal and hardcore, but like separated, but in the same room.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. And fortunately for me, Cell was an EP, because that's where Cell was originally. I'd be like, oh yeah, I got plenty that I could like put in that slot there. But yeah, that's really cool. Always very impressive to hear like the type of like work that comes from some of these solo projects. And this is one that really stood out like instantly. And it's heavy. It's heavy.
Yeah, so good.
It's so good, dude. Then Dissected, that's another Ohio death metal band doing it fucking well. It is, and I meant to mention this too with Backbiter. Their whole thing was Midwest misery. And same thing with Dissected. I mean, you talk about like 200 Stab Wounds, saying We Sugar Bog coming out of Ohio, like, and those are like just two off the top of my head that
Ever
are
since
huge.
that train wreck, dude. Just saying.
There's literally something in the water, and it's not good for your health, but it is good for your metal, which coincidentally probably is also in the water there. But yeah, Ohio does death metal very fucking well. The Midwest in general just does it really well. And Golden Hues of Decay, I love the album art for this one too.
Yeah.
It's got like a female face with some decay, and I'm blanking on the names for like the opening track and the last track. It's like, I think it's like Worms In, like Worms Out or something like that.
Yeah,
but it's really
like
cool how
a
they
bow tie to the sort of to loop it.
Yeah, and the, again, huge sound clip slide over here. They use, anytime you use something from Hellraiser, I'm here for it.
Come on.
And it's I love when death metal production, like the sound is done right. Like, I guess it sounds like death metal, but it's got that old school sound to it with the new school flair. That's one that really I just kept coming back to. It's a shorter album, which again, I like. And the closing track, I love a good closing track. It made me think of Skin Ticket sonically from Slipknot, which is, and I guess like kind of an underrated one off of Iowa. But that was number 4. And then Aborted, Vault of Horrors. Todd put it best when we were talking about this off camera. It's like a masterclass in death metal, dude.
Yes. And all those features, like, come on.
Aborted is a band that they've been around for a very long time. And again, I mentioned this before, like casual listener over the year, but this one in particular, probably because like the horror part of it, like just them kind of, they kind of, this, I'll probably catch some flack for it, but it's kind of like what Ice Nine Kills is doing with horror. Like they do it with the metalcore, and Aborted is doing it with death metal. But yeah, dude, the features, I mean, you have Johnny Targiulo from Carcosa Angelmaker, you have Alex Arian from Despised Icon, you have Ben Dewar of Shadow of Intent, you have who like I know the dude from like Flesh God Apocalypse is on there, which is awesome. That band is so sick. Again, I just had a lot of fun with that death metal album, and it just goes to show, I think this is album 12
That's
for
insane.
Aborted.
Yeah.
And I saw a lot of comments saying that this is, up there for a lot of like longtime fans, which is really saying something to be that long in your career.
I also think the cover makes me think of R.L. Stein,
It does, dude.
which
It
I
does.
love about it.
Yeah, it's got like that little cartoony flair, but like if R.L. Stein could write just a little bit more
if he can
fucked
go
up.
more Stephen King, he could.
Yeah, dude, that it's great. It's a really, really fun record, like Todd had mentioned, and I'm gonna steal it. Masterclass of an album. So yeah, to recap, number 5, Aborted with Vault of Horrors. Number 4, Dissected, Golden Hues of Decay. Number 3, Orbital Gate with Astral Scavenger. Number 2, Cogitations with Relinquish. And number 1, Last 10 Seconds of Life, No Name Graves.
Solid, dude. All right, man. 2 categories left. Next up, most brutal song. I can't wait to say my pick. I am going with Dead Awake with The Blade.
Nice.
In my opinion, the best death metal track of the year so far. They went death metal fully on this, and it paid off just so well, dude. It's catchy. It's just doesn't let up. There's so many good moments to it, and it's just this one you'll just loop and loop and loop. And I hope, because they're a band that has very much changed their sound. They have a great metalcore track that I love.
They do.
With singing, and I love it. And to put that in the same discography as this, it's just like, what's going on here? I really hope, my point is, I really hope they take the reaction to this single and then run with it. And I hope they stick to the sound, because I love this version of Dead Awake.
Yeah, that's a solid pick, dude. I have to listen to this one more. And to be honest, like these last 2 categories are probably my least favorite to pick because it is so fucking hard. And a lot of times too, with like songs specifically, I'm just like, dude, I don't know, like what I guess like what is, really sticking with us. But yeah, Dead Awake is on a really good trajectory. This one kind of came out of nowhere though too, because they released an EP last year, but there was like a lot of issues with that release too.
Yes, I remember there being, so I think that's Feral,
yeah.
And then they released one before that was
Vile. Love that one.
That one's really good. And then the one before that was Semantics. That's the more like, you get a metalcore track on. I love the direction they're in, and I really hope they're like, okay, we struck gold with this, because I was blown away. What's funny is I wanted to tell you about this when you were in Mexico, but I think you took off receiving text for a little bit and it didn't send, and I was like, oh wait, he'll know about it.
Yeah, didn't take it off. We just didn't get the plan. Like, we're not paying for it. And I was like, I don't really want to. I was like, I want to talk to people, but like, I don't want to talk to people.
Yeah. Get away. Yeah, get off your phone and all that. So I was just like, he's going to learn about this regardless.
Great. Yeah, that's a great pick, dude. We've been big Dead Awake fans for a while here on Brewtal, and Down Tempo Daddy was it.
Great username.
Yeah.
And if you're interested in that metalcore track, apologies.
That track is so good.
Love it so much.
I have to listen to some Dead Awake after this.
Contrast to this.
Yeah, Semantics is a really interesting EP, like in the grand scheme of their discography, but one that, like you said, should not be slept on. You should be awake and dead for it.
Don't forget slashes in there.
Slashes, yeah, you gotta have the slash. That's where the blade comes in. Wow, he's really changed his sound.
Finally took off that.
Dude, yes. The Blade, Dead Awake, great pick. This one, I'm going with Death Cult from Aborted, featuring
Great.
Alex Arian of Despised Icon. This one, I just listen to all the time. Like, it's so fun, but it's stupid heavy. And I love that they really played into Alex's.
Yeah, having them on. Yeah.
Yeah, and they changed it, made a little bit more like down tempo, like your standard deathcore. Not standard, but again, like they really played into his style of like Despised Icon. And I saw like some comments that were like, like, thank you for changing, like adding that style for Alex. And everyone's like, you mean just adding a breakdown? which, yeah, but like specifically, like
MVP.
Yes.
That's a reference, by the way, for those listening.
Day and Morning, that S tier deathcore album. But yeah, that one just there was I almost picked like a few Cogitation songs, like the one from Dennis from Gut Rectomy, and like, damn, this is so good. But
that's
again,
actually what it was before, and then there was another one, but I won't mention that just yet. Nice.
But yeah, this one in particular, it's a single. It's got a really cool video. I really like what they did as far as like the collective of visuals, because I'm pretty sure Joey Durango did all of the videos, at least this one, and I really like his directing and his style for music videos. It's very like cinematic, and Death Cult, if I remember correctly, is talking about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and the family. So yeah, it's really fun. Again, I can't emphasize that word enough for this Q1, but that one stood out. And again, it's just dumb, stupid heavy, and a testament to Aborted being masters of their craft, but still able to keep it fresh.
Yes.
A new abortion, if you will.
All right, man. We've gotten to that moment. Most brutal band of Q1. We had to say that on the record.
Yeah, on the record.
For now.
Yes.
My pick might be divisive, because it is divisive. Is
nice.
The most brutal band. Their track they released was almost my most brutal song, but then when Dead Awake released theirs, I was just, it's sort of a popularity contest at this point in the show.
Yeah.
But go listen to Divisive, because you're going to be knocked off your socks. They're just dumb heavy. It's like, I want to hear a full length from them, and I know it's going to fuck. So, yeah.
That's a good pick. That's a really good pick, dude. And yeah, that track is dumb heavy. I got to re-listen to it. It's been a minute, but I remember thinking like, fuck, this is good. This is good shit. Again, I went through a bunch of different ones. I'm still confident with this pick.
Okay.
But it was a toss up for quite a few. I'm going with Orbital Gate.
Nice.
For most brutal band. I am a sucker for slut, if you will, for these like one person projects, I should say. But I remember Todd like shooting this over and be like, dude, you're gonna love this. And I did.
I was so surprised by them.
I know they have like a couple other like bands, like their main bands that they're in, but this is like their solo project.
Yes.
I'm blanking on what they are, but
yes,
I think
they did mention it. We digress.
This is one that I just wasn't. I don't know what I was thinking of when I saw like the album art reminded me of like something else.
And I thought that anime actually, it's like a weird creature.
It is anime, but also like a almost like H.R. Geiger, like Alien type of deal.
Yeah.
Which makes sense with Orbital Gate. I guess for me, what really did it is like I just didn't know anything about this band, and then was just like floored. But like I felt like I was being crushed with the heavy. Yeah, I was like, "Who? This is slamming brutal death metal. How dare you?" Cogitations was real close.
Yeah, same
to being on there. But Orbital Gate, I think, just was a little bit heavier in the sense of what I was looking for. Again, I think it was just mainly because I had zero expectations. I don't remember listening to any, maybe like one single where like Cogitations I had heard like a couple that I really, really liked. But this one I just was blown away. The gate was open. The orbital gate was open, and like an alien came through with like a fucking probe to the face.
The astral scavenger.
Oh yeah, dude. So yeah, I'm going orbital gate. I am happy with that pick. It was a tough one, but very much deserved. They killed it for this one.
And if we play our cards right, might have them on as guests. So I'm gonna hype that up. We've got good relations with them right now, so I think it'll happen, and I'm pretty happy to talk about this album for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. It will happen. It's just a matter of, like always, scheduling. It's the hardest part.
Exactly. But this is kind of a shameless plug. If you're interested, DM us. We're always happy to listen to music, see if we're both jiving, to have you on the show and just talk about your release. We're only 4 months in to the year, so there's lots of new music to come out, and I don't want to fuck up my list, but it's gonna happen.
It's bound to, dude. And again, we're very much excited for the rest of the year, but Q1 has been incredible. And let us know what your picks, like what are the Hopwolves listening to? We always like to hear what's doing it for you. And hopefully there's some that like we miss. And we love discovery. So we can, if there's one that you're like, well, you need to listen to this, please, like we gladly will. But all right, y'all. Thank you, Hopwolves, again. Can't wait till Q2 comes around so we can talk about this all over again and see what our picks are. So thank you. Stay tuned.